Let's talk about one of the better games yesterday, a game in which started out with the home team not looking all that hot. They climbed their way back into it with an opportunity to win the game late. And unfortunately, officiating got involved in the Kansas City Chiefs loss to the Buffalo Bills yesterday. The Chiefs fall to Buffalo and they followed home. 20-17 was the final. And, of course, the big conversation, which probably should be Buffalo going on the road, exercising some demons, winning a tough game like that where Josh Allen's trying to scramble and make plays, another sort of a questionable interception as well, too. And there all the blowback and smoke with Sean McDermott during the week and the 9/11 stuff and all that. Buffalo gets it done. But unfortunately, that's not the discussion. The discussion is the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs were called for an offsides when Travis Kelce threw back to Kadarius Toney and what looked like was the go-ahead touchdown there late at Arrowhead. So that's where we're at again. Another game marred by conversations about officiating, and Patrick Mahomes had a little bit of a red ass about it post game as well too. So
yeah, I mean he very rarely gets as fired up as he was on the sideline after the game. He would talk about in the press, talk about the Josh Allen kind of made comments too. So I understand his frustration, and it's tough because it's a penalty where did it affect the outcome of the play? No, not in any capacity. He obviously was lined up offsides. If anyone who's a Kansas City Chiefs fan wants to refute that, I'm sorry. You could tell he was lining up offsides. Now, there's some fair points. People, of course, start sending over screen grabs of Von Miller's head being in the neutral zone or being, potentially being lined up in the neutral zone. Here's the only thing I'd say in response to that. If you really want to dissect every single play in an NFL game, you'll probably be able to make a case, especially with a still shot, for there being a penalty. Whether it's a holding, whether it's offsides, whatever the case is, you probably can plead your case to something. And there's good and bad to that. But it doesn't matter in the end, okay? Was Kadarius Toney offsides? Yes. And even so much so, if you read the pool report from the officials, and Chevers specifically said he was so far offsides, our line judge couldn't even see the ball on that side. So I have a couple questions because I've tried to go back to the TV copy and watch to see if Kadarius Toney did something that you were taught to do for as long as he's probably been a wide receiver.
Yep.
And that is as soon as you know you're on the ball, you line up where you think you are, all right, on the ball, and then you look at the official. And the official will tell you, move back, move up, whatever the case is. There's some sort of communication with the official. From everything I've seen, it doesn't appear that Kadarius Toney looks to the official. Now, that being said, the TV copy doesn't really do it justice because he's pretty much already lined up by the time it gets to him. The All-22 copy doesn't help out. Because even that copy, he's already lined up when it cuts to that specific play. So I'm sure there's going to be more to this story. There's going to be more about the mechanics of the officials. And if he did have a conversation, did he look over long enough to, approve one way or another? It feels like it's hard to make the case that he did. But I can't find anything from the TV copy or from the All-22 copy that would say or show that he looked over. So ultimately he has to be accountable for where he lines up and this penalty being on him. And it takes away what would have been an awesome play, what could have made this game even more theatrical down the stretch, right? The Chiefs go take the lead by 4 points with a touchdown and a PAT, and then Josh Allen gets his shot to go back. I mean, it really did take away from what could have been a phenomenal ending when it was all said and done. But they have no one to blame but themselves. This wide receiver group, between the drops, between the penalties, everything else that's gone on this season, it's been the Chiefs' Achilles heel. And I think you saw that frustration come out from Patrick Mahomes. And if you're a Chiefs fan and you really want to be objective about this, it has been your frustration the entire season. It's this group of wide receivers.
I think they're leading the league in drops, aren't they?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
At least I thought they were going into this week.
Yeah, and and we saw it week one. Like, that was the story week one. It was Kadarius Toney week one as well, too. And to your point, look, I was an awful wide receiver in high school. Terrible. But you learn that first day, look over, point to the official, make sure you're clear, and he'll tell you, scoot back a little bit, scoot up. Like, that is sort of the day one stuff that you learn as a wide receiver, just making sure that you're on sides. I don't recall this being called like this before. Like, it usually
it's been called 11 times so far this season.
Okay.
So if you go back and read the poll report from the officials, they've got the numbers and data for it. Like, they'll tell you it has been called this season. And it's something that, you almost wish they would have stopped the play in general, so we would have seen what the result would have been.
Right.
But
it's like when you lose on Wheel of Fortune, and Pat Sajak has to show you what you would have won. Have you figured out the puzzle?
Yeah.
It's like, thanks,
and by the way,
dude.
the flag came out relatively fast. It wasn't like it was delayed in any capacity. Like, it came out right as a snap of the football. You can almost see it.
Here was, you mentioned Mahomes' comments post game. Let's listen to the Chiefs quarterback.
To happen on a flag change the outcome of a game in that moment. I mean, I've played 7 years, never had offensive offsides called. I mean, that's elementary school. We talk about. I mean, you point to the ref, do all that different type of stuff, and it doesn't get called. And if it does, they warn you, and there was no warning throughout the entire game. And then you wait till there's a minute left in the game to make a call like that. It's tough, man. I mean, it's lost for words, man. It's tough because regardless if we win or lose, man, just for it to end with another game and we're talking about the refs, man, it's just not what we want for the NFL and for football.
And it also wasn't the last play of the game either. I know it was a big play. There was another opportunity there. I think that his frustration, because remember last week the conversation was, well, there was no PI called at Lambeau Field.
Right.
And I think part of his frustration is to what you pointed to. It's getting a little annoying that he's got issues at wide receiver constantly, and they have not looked like the Chiefs that we're used to the entire year. I mean, look, week one was one thing. It's like, first, a little bit of rust. Don't worry about it. Detroit came in hot following last year, and they have nothing to see here. Dude, it's middle of December. Like, it's the same issues. Like, this is a problem. This is what they are, and unfortunately, it cost them yesterday.
Well, and I think there's always like bigger storylines and things that run through your head too, or that people will talk about. Last year, I think they probably felt, I don't want to say vindicated, but they moved on from Tyreek Hill. That was a big move before last season, and they were still able to overcome that and win a Super Bowl. The reality is, though, that doesn't mean that they don't miss Tyreek Hill, and I think this year has been really revealing in that regard. I mean, look at the Dolphins. Not only are they going to win the AFC East, but Tyreek Hill is on pace to go over 2,000 yards, maybe 2,100 yards at this point. So he's about ready to set a record in the NFL. The Dolphins are playoff bound, and obviously the Chiefs are too. But if you look at the big missing piece, it's him. And because they were so good together when they were in Kansas City, that is still something that's going to be attached to each one of their legacies. Is that, and again, it wasn't Patrick Mahomes' choice, for the Chiefs not to pay him and all that, but that gets tagged along there too. And I think it's probably frustrating for him to see the way they've tried to go after, whether it's free agent wide receivers or trading for guys or selecting guys in the draft, and it just hasn't worked out. At least not this year, with the way things have gone.
And now we're looking at Kansas City, probably going to have to go on the road at some point in the playoffs.
And the other thing I'll say on that regard is I think Patrick Mahomes knows how big that win was for Buffalo. I mean, look at their final 4 games. Like, look what they have down the stretch. Do you think they want to see Buffalo in the playoffs? Hell no. He knows how good Josh Allen is, Stephon Diggs. He knows how good that group can be. I mean, despite all the injuries on defense and everything they've endured this year, he doesn't want another quarterback like that to be in the playoff hunt. And we have 6 teams right now in the AFC playoff picture who are 7-6, like all right there in the thick of it. And some of them right now are led by backup quarterbacks. Jake Browning is leading the Cincinnati Bengals right now as their starting quarterback, as a backup. They're 7-6. They're still in the hunt. I mean, Joe Flacco's leading the Cleveland Browns right now. Very much in the hunt. If you go through this list of it, and you're literally pointing to like which quarterbacks would you not want to see in the AFC playoff picture?
God.
It's Josh Allen. Like
that's a scary wild card team, man. Like, and Miami's going to win that division.
And that's what I'm saying is, I think Patrick Mahomes knows if they get into the playoffs, if they would have won last night, not only does it help their seeding and helps everything else outside of Baltimore with Lamar and his experience in the playoffs and how good that team looks, but you would look and say, well, now Buffalo is even further back. I don't think they can make it in, and thank God, because I don't want to have to go through the drama of playing against that guy in the playoffs. Because you start looking at the rest and you're going, well, all right, how much success or experience do these other guys have? I mean, not much. I mean, if you look at, for example, Trevor Lawrence, who's been playing banged up, like he's got a little bit, not a ton. And I don't think you look at the Jags as the same. You know, Stroud would be a rookie if he's leading the Houston Texans. You know, we already talked about Browning, who's a backup, Flacco, who came in this season to play for the Browns. I mean, you literally go through the list, and again, outside of Lamar Jackson, who no doubt would be the scariest opponent and team you'd have to play, you'd have to think the Bills would be the next group up. It's no disrespect to the Dolphins, but it's just the history of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bills and how tight those games have been.